Welcome back! Today, I wanted to take you back the memory lane, or myself back, and look at Maxwell, because if I'm not gonna be talking about him, no one's gonna be talking about him. Maxwell is a very interesting character. If you don't know, yes, I made Maxwell the Robot for Coffeezilla, and Steven had this idea. Steven had the idea for this detective character that he plays, the Coffeezilla, and how he has to talk to someone, right? And he has to confine in someone, which would have been this bartender. And obviously, Coffeezilla as a character, he has like a drinking problem or something like that along those lines. We're hinting at it. So virtual production was this interesting thing to try, and the buzzword with the Mandalorian production, and we tried to do it with a green screen, which is more like I guess a version for poor people. It turned out that the green screen is actually very difficult, even though it seems kind of easy on the surface. I have to deal with the green screens all the time. And the second project after that, after the studio, and it was like a freelance project, both of them, was this Maxwell character. And Maxwell was supposed to be somewhat semi-automated. Basically, my job originally was to make this character, pre-make a bunch of animations, and then we could, like, the editor could, or Steven himself, eventually could just like kit bash these animations and make it into a conversation with the robot. So let me show you at first. I will edit in some highlights reel of how Maxwell looks now. Movie magic. Now, okay. And first of all, there was a block out. I'll show how the first block out of the scene looked. Yeah, so here in the scene, this was my first idea, and then, yeah, I made like a robot character before that, and I stripped him of the materials to fit into the scene. And now I'll show my robot character from before as well on the screen. This is what yeah, I just like making like these tall robots, I guess. And then we have another block out of this, yeah, this conversation here. This is the very first block out of like a 3D sketch of the robot, right? You can notice that mustaches is still the same. I think this is like the same object. Of course, it went into this direction. So there was a light version, and I don't know, and a black version. So the materials changed over the years. I tried to improve them, and yeah, some things changed, but mostly the shape of the mesh is the same. And yeah, obviously we settled on the light version with this gold. For whatever reason, I tried to make him like more I don't know, fancy or something. Like, oh, I'm a like a bar appliance that you would see in a bar, I guess. What I wanted to talk about is that obviously Maxwell improved. The scenes with Maxwell improved, and it's actually not that easy to do animation. The point of this show, it's a YouTube channel after all, right? Back then, if you notice, we made a lot more videos. There used to be daily videos, there used to be weekly videos, and this is where the whole idea of trying to automate as much work as possible comes from, including working with these robot Maxwell scenes as quickly as possible. So as a fan of different kind of automation myself, I had ideas, and yeah, a lot how a VTuber avatar would work or something like that, or like trying to kit bash a bunch of animations in the video. This is what we tried first, and it didn't really work. I'm not especially like happy or proud for these scenes. I mean, they're fine, whatever. It's been a long time, but I also, since working full time, I have to do these Maxwell scenes more and more. And we tried some sort of like video-based motion capture, Connect-based type things, where I'm recording myself instead of recording reference. I'm recording myself moving, and it turned out that that's a nightmare. Actually, I actually hated it. So we went from doing things manually, animating, to like kind of doing these like kit bashing things, to animating with little strips of pre-made animation that didn't quite work at all. to some like simple version of the motion capture that didn't work at all. And why it didn't work also is it changed my workflow into a complete nightmare, where not only, first of all, I have to get up and record myself reference, but it's not just reference for the acting. That would be fine, I guess. I can't wear anything too loose. I have to be essentially kind of like in the studio in an empty background. Then I have to bring in that footage and edit it and put it in and like process it. And then I get these like rigs, and this rig is actually not ideal. If you notice, I'm not Maxwell is very tall. Maxwell is like 7 foot or 8 foot or something. He's taller than any human. So I'm not that. So I also don't have claws. I have hands. You see here. I still have to animate his eyes. I still have to animate his mouth. That's a good simplification for a workflow, though. Yes, the mouth is just based on the blinking light, right? So you can just separately record the voice actor, and the volume of the voice will just make the light blink. So I don't have to sync up all of this stuff. Then I have to import this animation data and cut it down, and then surprise, surprise, I don't have a set in front of me that looks exactly like I don't have this bar stool. I don't know where Coffeezilla looks. So basically making that scene with motion capture data, even if it was perfect and I had to fix it up, even if that motion capture data was perfect and I had like a very expensive motion capture suit, right? It would still be a nightmare, because instead of animating poses and dealing with animation, I would have to deal with just fixing up little data. And then if I want to go back and I want to reanimate things, it was kind of a nightmare as well, because I have to re-record everything. I have to go back and record all of the like keys that you get, all of these positions of Maxwell's like joins and all that stuff was not like optimized. So you have to tweak and optimize. It really did for some performances, especially when you make like humanoid creatures or aliens or something like that, and you see people use motion capture for these like realistic humanistic motion. This makes perfect sense, but it's apparently not easier than doing it by hand, and there are some advantages of doing it by hand that I just straight up lost, right? There wasn't this expressiveness of how I can do this. And I am not, by the way, the best character animator by far. I'm more of a generalist. I just have to, like, say once a month or so, we do a Maxwell scene, and usually he just talks. He just talks and he like gesticulates and does this with his... Yeah, I'm very proud about the rig. I think it's like more Futurama inspired. Eyes rotate when he gets evil. I'll try to edit in when he doesn't have eyebrows, but they go like this. And yeah, the mouth doesn't move. Sometimes the mustache can move a little bit, but usually it's not, and just the head moves. So that's the eyes also do this. I think it's also like Simpsons inspired, and someone smiles like the eyes go like this, but he's perfectly around here. Like that's... Yeah, I take great joy in using that rig and making that, and I still have to animate all of that stuff even after motion capture. So basically, I got this like realistic body motion, but then if you want Maxwell to walk, if it's motion capture and if it's not entirely perfect, there is sliding issues, right? Like the legs are sliding on the floor, and it's again, you delete that and you just do it by hand. And now doing it by hand still is not that difficult. It is both difficult and not difficult. Interacting with objects like Maxwell, sometimes we have Steven puts like a cup in the shot and Maxwell picks it up or something like that. He has to do all that stuff. Motion capture doesn't solve any of that. Any sort of automation you can think of doesn't solve for any of that. And also you're losing the environment is also CG, right? So you can't quite guess unless you replicate it exactly. You can't quite guess what is happening. I remember when I was trying to automate something with this motion capture, it basically all was getting replaced. It was all getting replaced, and I was just angrier. after I was done with it. And it kind of reminds me now with people talk about so-called AI and like trying to automate everything in their lives even, or whatever, which is a whole different subject I'll talk about later. That automation is actually it can actually suck, like in a lot of ways, and it's sometimes unwanted. And a lot of some things we do and buy for the some things we produce for the output, but some things we produce and consume as communication. For example, there are some textures or whatever things that can be like stones and rocks in the background, things that are based in procedures themselves. Like, for example, the formation of a stone is based on geological science and physics, how it appears. If we replicate important parts of it for the appearance in computer graphics, we get a photorealistic stone that is procedural, that we can change, and it's going to be like randomized, but it's going to be a stone, rock, whatever we want, a material like that, a stony material, will get infinite variation and everyone is happy. But things like logo design or graphic design or animation itself, right? The very layout of the frame that you're looking at right now, all of these things in art are actually not automatable kind of at all, because they are communication. It's like trying to automate the words that I'm saying by a machine. I guess it's not even the words themselves, it's the meaning that I'm trying to convey. It's trying to it's the meaning of these words, is the meaning of this communication. So I realized somewhat recently that, oh my God, the animation is actually very good, specifically because it's hand animated. Like it's not just because it looks especially good compared to something else, like compared to photorealism, compared to whatever. Art is good because every little paint stroke that you see was intentional and is communicating something. Sometimes it's subconscious, sometimes it's conscious, but it does communicate something. And we notice when it doesn't. And when you see some of these weird like AI animations or something like that, it's pretty uncanny in the sense that it just feels empty, and you don't know why, because it has this like exterior appearance of something that should be good, but then there is no communication that you can extrapolate from that at all. There's nothing there at all. Yeah, for some time, it kind of felt like animating Maxwell by hand every time was maybe a waste of time, kinda. But now I'm realizing that without that, it just wouldn't be. It would be kind of nothing. It wouldn't be interesting at all. Unless somehow we like perfectly motion capture the actor, but then it wouldn't be an animation; it would be just a capturing of the performance of someone else. So they would get to express themselves through this performance and get to communicate. And instead, I get to do it along with the voice actor who voices him, and I get to imagine every time. I'll show a screenshot of how it looks, or like a little video how it looks just with the green screen. What I actually get. It's just a green screen of Steven and some voiceover. And I transform it into the final video, I guess. The final clip of the video, obviously. The video is way larger. Okay, I'll stop with my yapping. I'll try to edit this into a cohesive video somehow. Try to like and subscribe, perhaps. And goodbye.